Okay, so I don't know how many of you know, but a few weeks ago I was involved in a discovery of a new glitch in Ocarina of Time that we are affectionately calling Ganonfloor because it changes a floor into a loading zone that goes directly to the bottom of the collapse sequence at the end of the game, like where the Re-Dead Bridge is, the final place where you escort Zelda through. And I have a YouTube video on it if you're curious and you haven't seen it. But recently, past few days, some very smart people in the Ocarina of Time Discord, namely Mr. Cheese and Natalia Has Died, same people involved in the initial discovery with me, were looking deeper into it and found a way to do basically the same glitch, but manipulate it so that you can now warp anywhere you want. And the way that you select where to go is by the volume of the last enemy music that was played, which can vary anywhere from 0 to 7F in hexadecimal. So whatever 80 or 8 times 16 possible values, I guess, which is basically anywhere. So now, not only can we use this to warp anywhere we want, but in the Defeat Ganon category, it's really strong because we can now warp directly to Ganon instead of the bottom of the collapse sequence. So you don't have to watch the cutscene of the tower actually falling down and collapsing. So yeah, you can warp anywhere you want, but also you can chain it indefinitely. So if I warp to a new map and then I die, I will again warp to a map dependent on whatever the last enemy music volume played was. So what you can do is, as long as you're warping to any map that has enemies that trigger like nearby enemy music, you can manipulate it to a different value, die, and warp again forever, for as long as you only chain it with maps with enemies that have proximity music. Yes, it is GameCube only. GameCube only. So I'm gonna show it to you. I'm gonna try to get through it. Basically, it's very similar to the beginning of the regular Ganonfloor from like 2 weeks ago. So it's not SRM. That's the thing. This is gonna revolutionize no SRM categories. 100% for sure is gonna use it. Like, there's no chance 100% doesn't use it. And I think people are trying to work out how to get it into all dungeons as well. Maybe even MST. But it's definitely faster for Defeat Ganon, and we can do runs with it like today. So I'm gonna show you how it looks. So I've got a save state here where I have just let me switch turn on my volume for Dolphin. Okay. So I've got this save state here where I've just done a mega flip off the BMOS on the center platform of Dodongo's Cavern, so I clip out of bounds. So here. Also, let me know if this is too loud or anything. It's definitely too loud in my ears, so I'm gonna lower it for me. It's the same glitch, essentially, as the first one that was found. It's just a more clever way to implement it. I think we're calling it Dynapoly warping, because it makes use of duping rooms and duping Dynapoly actors, which are like actors with hard collision, like these platforms that are raising up and down right in front of us. You dupe the rooms that they're in, you dupe them, they overflow into regular scene collision and allow you to edit properties of the scene collision if you do it very carefully. And that's how we're making these loading zones out of nowhere. We're like editing the properties of the scene collision. So Dynapoly warping, Dyna warping, dynamic warping, even cooler maybe. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. We clipped out of bounds, and we're gonna do basically the same thing as last time for Ganonfloor. But we have double explosions now on GameCube. So, oh shit. So we can hover more easily, which is nice. Might take me a few tries to get this. Let's see, what save state do I have here? Okay. So this is where I was going to be after I hovered, right? I'm out of bounds in this little pillar area near this BMOS. So we're going to do a little setup here. I'm not very good at dolphin controls. That's why I don't mind like using save states and cheating to show this to you. So we're going to carefully line up here so I can get a mega flip to dupe these rooms. Okay, here we go. Alright, so the room is duped. You can tell because of the fucked up textures, right? So I'm going to dupe it twice more, so we have 4 total dupes. Okay, now we're going to fully load this room. Oh my god, look at the BMOS. It's an eldritch horror over there. Multiple BMOS heads stacked on top of each other. Next, we're going to unload the duped rooms, but the messed up scene collision will remain. And next, so we have these Dodongos over here, right? We have these Dodongos that are going to spawn from the ground. And what we need to do is spawn one and then kill it when the enemy music is at volume 4F. And the enemy music just increases linearly with your distance to the enemy. So the closer you get, the louder it gets, the farther away you get, the more quiet it gets. So there were 2 options essentially for how to handle this. We need to freeze it at an intermediate value. So the 2 options are unload the enemy when it is perfectly the right distance from you, so it freezes the volume at a certain value, or we kill the enemy at a certain distance, and that seemed preferable. We have to spend a bomb chew to do it, but that's okay. So let me see here. I'm gonna save my game so that I can try this again if it fails. I have memory watches up, so I'm gonna look at that while I do it. Okay, so we want value 4F. So I'm gonna get a nice position set up here so I can be a specific distance to the enemy when it spawns and when it dies, more specifically. Okay, that worked. And I know it worked just because I'm looking at RAM values right now. So the enemy volume music, or enemy music volume value froze at value 4F. And when interpreted as an entrance, that goes directly to Ganon. Ganon is entrance 4F. So that is the value that we can dynamically choose where to go. But now what we need to do is we need to get some certain values in the frame buffer. And I don't know how to explain this very well, so I'm probably going to sound dumb to anyone who actually knows what they're talking about. But essentially, anytime you pause the game writes values to the frame buffer for all the pixels, for certain pixels in the little screenshot that the game takes to put behind the pause screen, like that low-res screenshot that ends up behind the pause menu. Certain ones of those pixels, in particular, they're going to be around... Can you see my mouse? Yeah, you can. They're going to be like right around here. There's like a line of 8 pixels right around here where they get stored into the frame buffer. And by pixels, I mean the colors of those pixels. It's an RGBA value. And so what we're going to do is we're going to get a very specific position, which will allow us to get exact pixel colors at the exact right spot on the screen to write good values to the frame buffer. So we're going to stand exactly right here, zoom the camera exactly right in, and then there's a line of pixels like right here on that wall texture, which have the perfect sequence of values for the warp that we're about to do. And basically, we are creating the glitched polygon right now. We are creating the glitched polygon, which is going to take us to Ganon. So the data the color data of these pixels, when interpreted as a polygon, will be a loading zone, which is correctly structured in a position that we can reach that will send us to Ganon. And we needed to find pixels, and by we, I mean Mr. Cheese. We needed to find pixels that did exactly that. So I'm going to try to pause the game. This looks like the correct values to me. And then, so now we need to navigate to the place where the fucked up polygon exists. But half of the collision out here doesn't actually exist anymore. It's all gone because of the corrupted scene data. So we need to navigate very carefully around this BMOS. All the collision to the left of the BMOS is gone. So we need to side hop between the BMOS and the wall, which is only barely possible, kind of. Quite lucky. So we're gonna line up in this corner. You heard Link like gasp because he was over a void there. All right. So now the last hurdle, the final hurdle is these platforms that are moving up and down, they kick up some dust. And it turns out that some of the values associated with that dust, which is random, influence the Z coordinate of the invisible loading zone polygon, which is kind of right in front of us and below us. And so if the platforms are stationary and there's no dust, the Z coordinate of one of the vertices of this triangle make it so that the triangle is like invalid and we can't reach it. But for some of the values, while the platforms are moving, the dust makes the one triangle vertex flap around wildly so that sometimes it's a good triangle and sometimes it's not. And you can't see this happening, but it's all happening right in front of us and below us right now. This polygon exists, it is a loading zone, and sometimes it is valid and touchable depending on the RNG of the dust that is kicked up by these platforms rising and falling. So what we're gonna do now is just jump into the void while the platforms are moving and hope that we see a nice little warp right to Ganon. Welcome to Ocarina of Time in 2024. This is the way Ocarina of Time is now. So, yeah. Kinda ridiculous. Yeah. Elevator dust RNG. Flapping around a fake polygon loading zone. So I hope that was at least somewhat intelligible. I realize it probably wasn't. But yeah, this shit's nuts. And keep in mind that this warp could have gone anywhere as long as I had just been a different distance from that Dodongo when it died, so that the enemy music volume was a different value. We chose 4F. I did a specific. You know what? Let's see if we can change it. Let's see if we can change it. Do I have a save state? Let's do something else. Let's just warp somewhere else. I don't know where we're gonna warp, but let's try it. DC is the only place that we found where it's reasonable to do without a lot of items, and therefore we haven't really thoroughly tested any other places. When we were doing the initial Ganonfloor work, and when I found this glitch originally in 2017, before we actually knew what was happening, Shadow Temple was also working to like corrupt the scene data. But we never actually got useful manipulation out of it in Shadow Temple. I do want to do a video about it. I explained that in a very high level way just now, and I probably didn't sound very high level, but I don't know the deep technical details, but I would like to learn them and do a deep dive video on it, like similar to my RBA videos. And I don't know how many people would actually want to hear something so dense with jargon, but I think this glitch is so unique and by far one of the biggest things that has been found in Ocarina of Time ever. So, I don't know. It's probably worth a good video. Do I know what the color data is for specifically? Yes. Okay, so each pixel is represented by 2 bytes. The color data, it's RGBA. And so the string of 8 pixels across the screen together make a 16-byte array, and the basic struct of the data structure of a polygon is 16 bytes, and the polygon data structure it's like the first 2 bytes is like the polygon type, and the next like 6 bytes are the vertices, coordinates, and then there's some other stuff. 16 bytes of polygon data, and so essentially the 8 pixels of color data are constructing a polygon. Oh. Oh, it like kept the explosion light. That's interesting. Can I fix this? Okay, looks good. Holy moly, please. All right, good. Yeah, sure, Midas. That's like the main thing, is that whenever there's a new glitch, you gotta figure out how it works. Okay, all right, so check this out, right? We are now... How are we gonna do this? We're gonna now try to warp again, right? So we can now continue to... we can chain this warp based on the volume of the enemy music. So I'm gonna go over here, and the enemy music is like some intermediate volume. Link, you still haven't gotten it? Dude, I wish I knew what was going on. Alright, I've never done the chaining before, so let's see how this goes. If you just die in a map with enemy music after doing the warp, you can chain it forever, right? As long as you keep going to somewhere that has enemy music. So let's see. Where am I gonna go? Who knows? Ah! Wow, a redead. Cool. And I can do it again now. You sure could, yes. So if you have Pharaoh's Wind and you set Pharaoh's Wind when you came from a glitched warp, you can save the glitched entrance in Pharaoh's Wind and then return to it later to continue chaining if you had broken the chain by warping to a place that didn't have enemies. Where are we gonna go now? Oh, the game crashed. Nice.